So deep, such a
How's everybody doing? We're going to do like 50 states, one Israel. And we're going to talk about Facebook again. This is not investment advice. We're making some major changes to Reconstruction USA. You sort of saw like a draft of some ideas. There's going to be another draft. I'm going back to see Camille this weekend and then headed back to LA. So there's a lot going on. We could use help. So here's the picture that's going to be on this. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So I'm going to talk about this Facebook thing a little bit differently than maybe you're immediately going to be a little uncomfortable with the way I present this. And that is, I had this thing, Reconstruction and like the Neo-Confederacy. And like I started to talk about this 5 years ago. I didn't even know what the hell I was talking about. It's just because most people don't understand. Everybody talks about America in terms of capitalism and democracy, and they just don't get anywhere. Why is this happening? How could this happen? It's because those two things isn't really how it works. And but it's coming to some sort of crescendo now. And it's not in Washington, D.C. Like cable TV is primarily about Washington, D.C., right? We're going to vote for this guy and Pete Buttigieg. And, I like to spoof on all these people because I think they're all compromised. I don't think anybody we vote for and send to Washington, D.C. I don't even know that the U.S. Congress hat is like one of these plastic hats and it's horribly uncomfortable. I don't even know that the U.S. Congress really has all that much influence over anything. There's no budget. There's nobody going to impeach Trump. There's nobody from either party really going to stand up to Israel. So Washington, D.C. is really like, I think it's fair to say, like sort of captured, sort of contained in something. We all spin our wheels like, send Bernie Sanders $27 and it's going to go away. And it just doesn't go away. But what just happened with Facebook, I think, is where the real action is. So let's just go back into our fourth grade brain and remember about the Civil War. The states broke off. It started with South Carolina. The capital of the Confederacy was Richmond. If I remember, Richmond's still the capital of Virginia. It's also a Federal Reserve office there. So you had like these two city states right beside each other, Washington, D.C. and Richmond. And like most of the Civil War was just troops like maneuvering around there. What we have now, I made a little picture for you. I know you like these things. You're welcome. So I made this. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, where's he going with this? Just calm down. Okay. They made it up, right? When Trump came in, remember all these Congress people went to Israel and had this big sign behind them that said 50 states, one Israel. It's like, and now they've passed legislation that has merged America's defense and intelligence with the state of Israel. So that is accurate. By legislation, that what I just presented to you, whether my personal feelings about Jewish people, who cares? But that's how it works now. So what you just saw with Facebook is the 50 states. right? We have the technological republic. We have, like, Ontario's now Lake Erie. Like, we have no control over what comes out of DC. Like, they're bulldozing the White House. They're bombing countries. So they're sending fucking long-range missiles to. It's just completely fucking insane, right? And we all sit here and go like, "What? Who are we going to vote for?" Like Pete Buttigieg. It's sort of silly. Well, that's not how it's going to work. More like the Washington, D.C. versus Richmond thing. Washington, D.C. is now going to be, Linda, let me tell you something. Increasingly, Washington, D.C.'s adversary is going to be all 50 states. And you just saw it with Facebook. Washington can't even get involved in those court cases. They have no jurisdiction. When all the states gang up on Facebook and said, "Did you make your algorithm groom 11-year-old girls to get depression and stay on your algorithm? Did you groom teenagers?" I like to say girls because it makes it a little bit more intense. Sort of like Epstein? Yes. I think just shooting from the hip, I don't have any proof of this. I think the reason they got the settlement is because the lawyers sat down across from Zuckerberg and the other executives and said, "We can make this criminal, or you can just write us a check." It's like the scene in Wolf of Wall Street. You're either going to go to jail for a long time or you're going to work with us. I think this is coming to Palantir. I think this is coming to Microsoft. I think this is coming to the Gates Foundation. I think this is coming to Oracle, TikTok, all the surveillance built into all the American tech. I called it white tech. I like to come up with these different memes. I never know which one's going to really, but I'm telling you, if you think about this, they're a little bit, they seem completely untouchable, right? Now they have ICE agents with electronic gloves, and Palantir is going to spook people like me because they're going to come take me off my motorcycle with the electronic gloves and throw me in a ditch somewhere or whatever. That's how it fucking works, people. That's what they're presenting to us. And like Tucker Carlson isn't going to mansplain this to you because he's part of it. If they're on TV, they're part of it. They're one Israel. And then what's happening is people locally and some other people have sort of, the fourth turning sort of suggests this is going to happen. The Soviet Union, when it broke up, it like fell back into its republics and all that stuff. Here, the book's right here. There's the book, Through the Eye of the Needle. I don't know if I can even turn to it, but there's one page here that's just like, here, there's. What was it like to be, quote, a local Roman at this time? That was convenient that I have that marked. That's what's going to happen here, people. You're going to be like a local American. And you're going to be like, who the fuck is coming here to take our electricity and our water and take over our local town council and bring in these fucking goons who drag you out of the meetings and shit? People are just going like, what the fuck is going? Well, this is it, people. This is what you're dealing with right here. Now, just a reminder, who made Israel? If you're going to say the Jews, you're going to be wrong. It was made by the British Empire and then imposed on America when somebody handed Harry Truman $2 million. And now Mary Matelson hands $200 million to Trump. It's all the same thing. Don't get all bogged down that you're feeling like you're going down the wrong path of some sort of. Jon Stewart can't even, and he's Jewish, of course. I think his last name's Lipschitz. He interviews Fetterman, and he's like, what's with the Israel thing? Like, your whole reason for being in the Democratic Party is for Israel? And now the whole thing within the Democratic Party of the Democratic Socialists, which aren't even socialist, the fracture is here. Republican Party is completely gone. Republican Party is the party of treason. But that's sort of my intro. But what I want you to think about this is not so much in terms of politics and we're going to vote for this guy or that guy or AOC or any of these things. That's going to run its course, and really not much is going to where it's going to happen is in the courts. And where it's going to happen is in the tech. And where it's going to happen is in the data centers. It's going to be in the algorithms. I just saw a video this morning. The new head of compliance or whatever his name is from TikTok says TikTok is run by Israel now. So theoretically, some people here in Pennsylvania could get up and go, Governor Shapiro, who's a nice young Jewish man, and say, don't we have like some sort of freedom of expression and freedom of the press and freedom of conscience and stuff like that? And theoretically, the state of Pennsylvania could move against a technology company for their algorithms being biased at the very least, or worse. That's what they did to Facebook. See, all these, you're not hearing it from me, you're hearing it from other people explain that these social media companies pretend like they're just a Google search. Well, I found a copy of Mein Kampf. I'm not for or against Mein Kampf. And then what they found is the algorithms is truly is not just representing the material. And now that it's AI, what they're selling the story of AI is we are looking at all the language. We're looking at, let's call them texts. We're looking at all the texts and then we repackage them for you. So now they're caught between these two things legally. Okay, well, either you're influencing what the text says or you're just presenting it like a library. Can't have it both ways. This is going to happen to all of American tech. And it's a little bit warm here today, which doesn't happen very often. This is going to happen to all of American tech while the $22 trillion AI thing is pretty significant now. Listen to me when I say this, Linda. NVIDIA is now the 5th largest bank in the United States. It has a $1 trillion loan portfolio. That's the size of Wells Fargo. And here's where I really want to, here's what I do. I don't just Tucker Carlson this shit or Nick Fuentes and throw some anti-Semitic cliches around or harp on feminism and stuff like that. When you look at this again with me, and I'm all ears for DMs and opinions and all kinds of stuff, and we'd really like you to get involved in all kinds of ways. Just subscribe, tell a friend, be a paid subscriber. I'm going to see Camille. We're going to build all this stuff for you on Hyperledger and on Chain Opera and game it and video game it. To include, I just made a sketch of a game called this. It would be jump into your state and keep track of everything that's going on over here. Not just the normal, Iran war and missiles and drones and shit like that. What I'm getting at is this is about technology. The technological republic is Israel and vice versa. And I've spent many, 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 many hours putting this argument together for you. It's not to get you irate and weird and make you want to go to the gun store, okay? Because that's not going to do anything. But just listen to me when I say this. The numbers that are built into this AI thing are like nothing we've ever seen. I mean, even George Noble, who's a guy I follow on Substack, we don't even know. We send each other something once a week, and it's we don't even have to respond to it. I mean, how do you get a tech company to have a loan portfolio the size of a large American bank? JP Morgan's loan portfolio is $1.7 trillion. In 2 or 3 years, it's conceivable that will be NVIDIA's loan portfolio, which brings us to the next thing. why did all this happen? Like, why are these numbers so enormous? Why didn't OpenAI just raise its own money? Why this, like, uh, hologram of money? Just trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and war. When a nation spends 5% of GDP, around there, some people say it's 4, some people say it's higher. I say it's higher because if you include the wealth effect of the gains in the stocks. By the way, GDP came in at 1.5%. We just spent 5% of GDP on AI, and the real return we got out of the engine, like putting our foot on the gas, is like a rounding error. This is bad, people. This is nothing like 2008. It's nothing like 2000. There's a famous thing I won't go into it for too long, but there's a famous thing leading up to the Depression. I'll give you the sketch of it, and you can just sort of intuitively see where I'm going with it. And of course, the Depression led to the Second World War and the rise of Hitler and so forth. It's a famous meeting of all the central bankers. I think it was in England. And England had a terrible problem with one of the worst decisions that was ever made in the 20th century. And the decision was made by Winston Churchill to set the value of the British currency at $4 per British pound. As though they were still like the empire, and like he was on his third bottle of scotch and like in fantasy world, because that's who Winston Churchill really is. And it caused massive deflation. So the central banks were always trying to get the machine to run faster because of this. And Britain could never throw off the debts that it had incurred through World War I, and it's trying to run this empire and the British Navy and all this. And all the central bankers worked together. That's the joke. So the American Federal Reserve chair said, quote, he was going to give the stock market a head of whiskey. That's the Depression right there. So the stock market was going like this because we have this massive industrial build out of automobiles and Ford Motor Company and U.S. Steel and blah, 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 and then it went like this, and then it went like this, and then it went like this. And as it went like this, they actually lowered interest rates. Everybody's sitting around waiting for Warsh to lower interest rates. And diesel fuel's at $6. Sound familiar? Anyways. 5% of GDP is what you do when you go to war. The AI build-out is an act of war. And what you saw with Facebook is the states going, what are you doing? Like grooming these little girls on fucking Facebook with your algorithms. You see where I'm going with this? It sort of implies that the people who use Facebook are not really worthy. It's not like we just added more caffeine to the Red Bull or something like that. Like the purpose of that algorithm was to get into their brain and manipulate them and control them. It's not an act of war like violence, but it's like an act of manipulation, just like Epstein would get these girls and they'd become massage therapists and they'd become this, and then they'd be in a room with the guy and either have sex with them. And if you don't, they pick up the phone and say, hey, we paid her last time to do this for $200. She's a prostitute. This is going to happen over and over, I think, with the 50 states, and there's no way for Trump to intervene. See where I'm going with this? And people like Pritzker and Shapiro, who are nice American Jews, the Pritzker family would, cut your knees off if they could. But they're going to, like, everybody's going to look at them and be like, which side of this are you on? it's going to be real apparent. You're not going to be able to Hakeem Jeffries out of this. You're not going to be able to take both sides like Bernie Sanders does. Well, Israel has a right to, I'm voting to send the bombs over because Israel has a right to defend itself and the Holocaust. And he goes like this with his hands and so forth. And he just goes back and forth like that for the last 50 fucking years. Bernie Sanders needs to resign. The nice people of Vermont need to just be like, Bernie, it's over. It's time for you to go away. But again, it's not going to happen in Washington, D.C. So here's where the action is, people. Right here. It is like the Civil War. So this technological republic, Palantir, 5% of GDP, let's go raise all this money from the Persian Gulf and come back and go, 22 trillion, unbelievable, right? You saw me do that for like the last 2 years. It's war. And it's not war just against Iran, China, and Russia. It's against you. Then now you can feel it. Now you can see it. You don't really understand it. Like, why would this happen? Why would they come here and like just like, I think the thing that was built in Memphis has like no permits. They're just above the law. When I say they, it's not the Jews. It's this thing called Israel and all the people who are attached to it. Some of them are not Jewish at all. Some of them are very secular people. Some of them are just opportunists. But it is, to me, it's more like a confederacy. It's more like the fucking rules don't apply to us. Trump talks like that. Stephen Miller talks like that. Alex Karp talks like that. Clearly, Zuckerberg thought that the rules didn't apply to him until they did. Now, we have a stock market that's over 200% of GDP, and it's roughly 50%. These tech companies, and I think they're all very vulnerable, not to the federal government, right? Right? Anthropic submits its SEC S1 filing for an IPO and says we expect to have $30 trillion in revenue. That's the GDP of the United States. It got approved by the SEC by saying we're going to have the same revenue as the Chinese economy. So, Washington, D.C., the SEC, FBI, CIA, they're not American anymore. They're some other thing. So fuck it, let's just call it one Israel. And they do whatever they want. They've tried so hard to ramrod some sort of AI legislation so that the states wouldn't be able to regulate it. See? It's an act of war. It's unconstitutional. They're going to blow themselves up with this. If you have friends that are far right, far left, your Uncle Bob who like hates woke people, and then I always do this skit where I say like, and then there's like his niece who's from Seattle with a nose ring and blue hair, and she's a lesbian, and they fight at the Thanksgiving table. That's not the problem. Okay, that's not the problem. That's how America's always run. That's what makes it fun. This is the problem. You have, if you've not done it recently, go read the Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights says that Congress shall not pass any law instituting a religion. How does that fit into this? Is this a religious state? Does this have separation of church and state? No. No. By its very nature, it's contrary to this. Okay, so I'm sort of a half-assed Catholic. Like the state of Maryland was called Maryland because all the Catholics went there. And at one point, they were going to like recreate this Catholic colony for all the Catholic aristocrats that were pushed out of England in like the 17th and 18th centuries. So when the Constitution came, they were like, no, we're not going to establish any religion, not the Anglican Church, of course, not the Catholic Church, but we're not going to do that. And we're not going to allow Congress to sway one way or the other. Well, that completely is incompatible with a Jewish state, which just merged with our intelligence services, which just merged with Palantir, which just merged with all of our social media. See how simple this is when you start putting it this way? And then the AI build out is not just capitalism throwing some billions around. It's trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions because it's an attack on the 50 states. Down to the fucking electronic gloves that the ICE agents wear. Run by Palantir. Palantir tells them where to go. I mean, a big swath of the American public should listen to what I'm talking about and be like, yeah, I don't really understand it, but like it's because I'm not really going after either party, but the federal, like John Fetterman, I don't even know what John Fetterman believes. I would assume he's some sort of agent with his goofy fucking Carhartt sweatshirts on for the last 30 years. Okay, you were the governor of Braddock. We get it. You're edgy. You're tall. Like the poorest part of Western Pennsylvania, you like were the mayor there for 8 years, but it's over, dude. Like you're not like hanging out with Dr. Dre or some shit. He's fake. All these people are fake. They're compromised. They have handlers. They have a program. They have an agenda. And it always comes down to Israel. It's the best way to understand it. Those two things are not compatible. So let me wind this down by saying, do like your 4th, 5th grade stuff about Lincoln. Remember the stuff like a nation divided cannot stand? Remember that? Remember like we shall be all free or all slave? It's back. It's back. Right? There's no like I'm sort of for this or I'm sort of against it anymore. These two things are now in a collision course. Literally for the resources of North America. For the land, for the natural gas, for the electricity, for the water. Here in Pennsylvania, Governor Shapiro said that if we allow these things to be built, these data centers, and because we have so much coal and natural gas, it's the obvious place to come. Like it's, like you could put a couple gigawatts together pretty easy. And he said, well, if we do this, we're going to have to cut ourselves off from the grid of basically New York and Philadelphia and the whole East Coast. Pennsylvania just have to seal itself off because the lights will go out. So it really is like an invasion, like a resource war, a war for hearts and minds, a war for opinion, surveillance, control of the media, control of press. Look at Larry Ellison has Oracle, of course, which is, I don't know, like 60% of all big corporations run on Oracle, which means any intelligence agency can see everything that those corporations are doing. See, they're just completely transparent. Then he took over TikTok. Now he wants to take over Paramount and CBS. And you're going to go, well, what are you saying? It's on behalf of Israel? I'm not. That's too simplistic. That you don't get the joke here. Israel isn't like the state in the edge of the Mediterranean. It's this idea that people have that Senator Cotton has and Huckabee and clearly Trump has it and Stephen Miller. We're going to do whatever we want. Even the financial system, Bessent is like, we're going to do whatever we want. We're going to print money, buy bonds, sell bonds, do this. And let me leave you with this. I'll probably do another thing about this tomorrow. The AI, it's not a bubble. It's not a bubble. It's not a bubble. The AI is the financial system now. AI is the stock market. And The best AI is Chinese. Sun's a little warm. So the stock market's going to go down, right? Here's another explanation of what might be coming. So there's this guy on the internet called Jim Rickards. And if you sort of float around in alternative finance, he pops up all the time. Talks about gold and he talks about deficits. And he's the guy that bailed out long-term capital management. That was a $100 billion problem. He has a PhD in tax law. And he has a JD. And he's almost certainly a CIA agent. He even says it all the time in his interviews that he does work for the CIA. He started to come out with this really apparently crazy, goofy idea that Trump and Bessent are going to find this, like a week ago, Bessent found $1 trillion. Okay, remember, the Fed and the US Treasury can really create money whenever they want. Like they can just make an Excel spreadsheet and hold their finger on the zeros and goes, and there's $1 trillion. There's no gold. There's no back room with piles of paper in it. They can just make up whatever they want, whenever they want. This is what nobody understands about modern economy. So he found $1 trillion because he came out and said, well, we're going to throw $20 billion at the 30-year bond. And even his old boss, Druckenmiller and JP Morgan and Dalio and me and all these people are like, well, the bond market's 100 trillion, right? In the United States alone, the bond market, all the different bonds, the treasuries, the mortgages, the car loans, student loans, the boat loans, credit cards, all of that, it's 105 trillion. So like 20 billion is like just not going to do it, right? It's just like a joke. So then he comes out, well, with that look on his face. Well, we've in the basement of the U.S. Treasury, we have discovered $1 trillion. Okay, well, that's 1% of 100 trillion. So okay, now we've gone from 2 basis points. That means 0.002, if I remember right, to like 1%. Okay, here's what Jim Rickards is starting to float out there, and I want you to really think about this. So you've heard me go on and on and on about tokenization of real-world assets. Larry Fink talks about tokenization. DTCC, that controls all the stocks, has tokenized everything. Franklin Templeton, the banking system, everything's being tokenized. Blah, 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 blah. I'm done talking about it. If you don't hear it from me now after 5 years, you're not going to hear it. So Jim Rickards comes out and says, yeah, the Treasury could find $150 trillion of assets and just give them away to the American people. Okay, let's just all calm down for a minute. What they're going to find is the crypto soup. The don't think of it like that, but this tokenized. I don't even know what to make of it. Like, I'm trying to think of an analogy. Like, did you ever see like the rivers in India that just float with like plastic bottles like forever? Like, there goes 150 trillion plastic bottles out into the ocean. That they're just going to tokenize fucking everything, not sell it, but just unload it on the American people. What? So the Treasury has $10 trillion coming due in T-bills. These are like less than 3 years. They'll just put them in a token and just deliver them to all these Trump accounts. If you notice, since Trump came in, there's all this talk of all these new accounts being created. You don't even have to call a brokerage office. They're just making accounts for people, for kids, for workers. and they're going to supplement them. And what they're going to do is you're going to wake up one morning like the Soviet Union, and they're just going to dump $150 trillion worth of assets on you. It'll be mortgages that are underwater on the banks. It'll be treasuries. It'll be the credit that NVIDIA has put together. It'll just be like this unfathomable pile of refuse. It's not all like worthless. I'm not implying that. I'm implying something else. That it'll be so overwhelming you won't know what to make of it. It's like a deluge of inflation. Like that thing that just happened in Nepal. Mentally, you can think of it like that. They're just going to take all this shit out of Wall Street. There's 33,000 private equity businesses, right? And they'll just bundle them and all this blockchain stuff and just go. And there'll be people that say it's great. There'll be people that don't know what to make of it. But it's truly the word liquidation. Like America is going to be liquidated. It may include some of the gold. It may include the Bureau of Land Management land, which is like, I don't know, a third of like Montana and Colorado. Fuck it. We're just going to give it away. This is the $150 trillion solution. So if you're like me and you sit around and go like, how are they going to refinance how are they going to refinance $10 trillion in the next 12 months? They're not. They're just going to like throw it out the window. Now it's your problem. Now, the people that are organizing all this, they're going to take all the good assets, namely the oil and gas, because that's all America has left. It has the farmland and the oil and gas. No. We have AI. Oh, okay. So they just had the robotics Olympics, right? There were 666 teams at the International Robotics Olympics. 640 of the 666 were Chinese. We're not even in the same fucking league. We're not even in the same world as them. And they just keep it's trillions of dollars. They're spending trillions on GPU. Well, that's GPUs aren't just better AI. It's just like saying we're building more Chevy 454 engines, and therefore we're going to win the Le Mans race. But that's how America works, people. It's, I can't. It's like standing beside a Chick-fil-A and go like, why do you all eat chicken sandwiches? Because we like to eat chicken sandwiches. And probably 40% of the population is going to go, oh, great. America's just been liquidated in all this technology, all these tokenized blockchain assets. It's literally being restructured. Remember when what happened to GM in 2009, I think it was, in 2010? It became Government Motors. So what I just described to you, this $150 trillion thing, is like government tokens. It's like the great, and lastly, I'll leave you with this. It really does appear that China's new financial system that it's putting together through all the wars and the oil and the Iran and the blowing up of all this shit, it's going to be tied to gold. Like China's rebuilding a gold standard. And if you think about it, this is what happened to us after the war, right? After World War II. This is Bretton Woods. In New Hampshire, there's a nice place I drove by it a couple of years ago, and everybody met there, and the US dollar went on the gold standard at $35 an ounce, and everybody else went on the US dollar standard. China doesn't want to be the world's reserve currency because it doesn't want it's not going to make an imperial currency like the US dollar has been for the last 100 years, because they still need to export. They don't want their currency to rise artificially. So the honest thing to do is everybody get on some sort of gold standard. Does that mean you can run to, I mean, there was this weird thing last fall. See, this is the kind of stuff that I like to bring to you. The whole fucking gold trading platform in New York City for JP Morgan moved to Singapore. They just came in one day and said, everybody turn off your computers and go pack up your apartment. Because if you're going to work here, you're going to go work in Singapore. It was either Singapore or Hong Kong. I don't think it was on the mainland. But everybody on the gold trading floor for JP Morgan, the biggest bank in the United States, left New York. It's like when Motown left Detroit and went to LA or something like that. Feeling me? So what does it look like if you have a big liquidation of America? What I just described to you. You have this Treasury Secretary that just comes out and just says, we might buy bonds, we might sell bonds, we might wipe my ass with bonds. We might just do whatever we want, because it's liquid. It's like people sitting around a desk discussing a bankruptcy. Okay, Bob, how many bonds do we issue now for BP? How many shares of equity do we issue for Government Motors? It's all like you start with a blank sheet of paper. That's what's going on. That makes the most sense. He's gone to the Fort Knox. Ron Paul's going to check out the gold or some shit. Like all this, we're going to take over Canada. It's a restructuring, people. It's a liquidation. It's a bankruptcy. It's a bankruptcy. Go read the Moran paper. It's not very complicated because the guy who wrote it is not very intelligent. What it explains to you is we're going to do whatever we want. Somebody gives us shit, we're just going to write them oh, you don't like our deal? How about this? We'll pay you back in 100 years. That's what the fucking Moran paper says. Norway, you're not going to buy, you're going to sell all your bonds, huh? Okay, how about this? When you go to sell them, we're going to sanction anybody who buys them, and you're going to get your bonds back in 100 years. Go fuck yourself. That's what this is. Somebody on Substack said, how does this guy who's been bankrupt 6 or 8 times always recover? Well, one answer is he's involved with organized crime, right? They want you to lose money. They want you to default. They want you, okay, here's another $1 billion. Go build another building somewhere in Dubai or some shit, and we'll go wash money through that. Remember, Trump's the guy that made a casino go bankrupt. How do you make a casino go bankrupt? One reason that it would go bankrupt is because it's used for massive money laundering or skimming from organized crime. It's like, remember the line in Godfather? He says, your casino loses money. And he goes, and what's his name? I can't think of it. They disguise his name, but there is a real guy who created all the casinos in Las Vegas, and I just can't think of him right now. Anyways, he goes, well, you think I'm skimming money? And Michael Corleone says, no, I think you're unlucky. I mean, like, you run the casino and like you can control the handles and like tweak the numbers behind the thing, but you're unlucky running the casino, which of course is built to like just rape people from their savings. How does Trump make a casino go upside down and then get rescued and then get rescued again and then get rescued again and then rescued again? Well, he either works with organized crime or he works for the Rothschilds or both. It's really not that hard to understand all this if you can swallow all that. Otherwise, we all have to sit around like Tucker Carlson and go, I thought we voted for this guy because he was going to keep us out of the wars. And Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson. And everybody's going to walk around with their, like, needing a massive shot of Botox like me. Like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, I never fell for that shit. What am I doing? Yeah. Then I also came up with this. I was going to do this, but you guys wouldn't get the joke. You're going to say that's Ukraine. Yeah, but that's the Ashkenazi cognate sigil, but that's too much to explain on a Thursday afternoon. But I did make this. Do you like this? I made this. Trump didn't make this, but this probably says it all, right? I mean, think about, like, just in your mind, just run through Trump 47. Attack Harvard, attack Minnesota, attack this place, attack that place, attack the woke. California, you're not getting your benefits. You're not getting this. You're not getting this. You're not getting that. It's a war. It's a war. It's a war. Like, I'm not telling you to do anything weird. Don't go to the gun store and all that happy horse shit. Don't do anything weird. I actually put together a little video game called, based on this. I said, make a video game called 50 States, One Israel. And it would be like an agent to help you track all this technology and Palantir and crypto legislation and all this madness that it's Trump, it's Trump, it's none of this is Trump, people. I mean, he's 80 years old. He's a psychopath on Adderall who runs around with a 35-year-old girl who plays with his balls or something. I don't know how it all works, but it's not Trump. Right? I mean, if you go to your TV and turn, Trump did this. Trump named Lake Ontario Lake America. Clearly, it's just Hunger Games. Clearly, it's just fake. It's just reality TV. And then all night we're going to sit and talk about Lake Ontario becoming Lake America. And I'm just telling you what's really going on. And we're going to talk about the tarps on the White House, and they painted the reflecting pool the wrong color, and all this other psychobabble bullshit. But here's where the real action is, folks. You look at this picture. There's sometimes, it doesn't get hot here in Somerset County very often, but it's a little hot today. There's something about reading people's faces, right? Like, humans are so sensitive to seeing. By the way, the Fed meets in Jackson Hole tomorrow. Nobody cares because the Fed doesn't have anything to do with anything anymore because everything's being liquidated, as I just explained. I don't want this. I want this. I want the Drudge Report. Okay. Well, it went away. But if you look at the picture of Mark Zuckerberg, what I'm presenting to you is we just took one of the first oligarchs down. And I think the big one will be Alex Karp. It's conceivable that the states could block Palantir software from being used in the state. And of course, ICE would come back and say, you're interfering with our investigations. And the state could come back and say, that's being used to take away our citizens' constitutional rights. And it would happen not between Minnesota wouldn't sue the federal government, wouldn't sue ICE, it would sue Palantir. You feeling me? Just like they just did to Facebook. Federal government has nothing to do with it. They could go after Alex Karp personally. They could people in Germany could say, why did Alex Karp say that Palantir prevented AfD from being elected? Tell us about that. How does that work? How does Palantir I think it's a Delaware corporation or Texas corporation. How does a Delaware corporation influence the elections in Germany, and why would the CEO talk about it openly? See, these people think they're untouchable. That's why Zuckerberg has that look on his face, because I think they opened the books and they said, Mark, you're either going to write us a check for $17 billion dollars, or we're going to go after you on a criminal basis, which means you'll go to jail. There'll be a class action criminal, not civil, but criminal case against you and your executives. That's where we are, folks. It really is a civil war. It really is a kind of, what do they call it? Lawfare. And it's the reason that as I'm presenting Israel, like this broad sense of like a kind of intellectual Israel is in trouble is because there's 50 states. So I've always had a hunch that people on here actually really want me to do something more political. And I talk about metaphysics and St. Augustine and shit. And people are just like, what are you doing, dude? Like, what? But it's all the same thing. Americans don't have much of their sovereignty left. Imagine some old woman with a babushka on whose husband died in World War II, and she gets this envelope in the mail, and it's for like $20,000 worth of her shares of the industry of the Soviet Union. And what did they do with them? They sold them to buy potatoes and vodka or whatever. I didn't mean that in a shitty way, but you know what I mean. Nobody knew. The Russian people didn't know what the fuck to do with a share of stock. They like, what? What does this do? Does it like pay us something? So they all sold it and all ended up in 12 families called the oligarchs. And that's who Putin's been at war with ever since. But, you know, let's all calm down. That's what's going to happen here. We're not going to get him in the mail. We're going to get the liquidation of America is going to go through some sort of tokenization thing. This $150 trillion thing that they find when they revalue the gold and they sell Mount Rushmore and they, I don't know, sell the Panama Canal and they'll just make up shit, right? And you just won't be able to, you won't be like an old woman with a babushka on in Russia, but people will be like, oh, this is great. Trump and Bessent just like gave away the store. Now they liquidated the store. So, you know, we've always tried to have a lot of different kinds of people involved in this thing we call Bruno. Sort of given up on older people and white men. I don't think they're really. I think white men like their wars and like their money printer. They're rich people are going to be like, I don't pay for diesel fuel. That's who runs America now, right? If you've seen the movie One Battle After Another, there's like this weird secret society, white racist weirdo people. They're like they like pray to Satan and they call him Saint Nick or something like that. That's Israel. It's not like your local Jewish dentist or like an observant Orthodox Jew in Brooklyn. That's not the point here. Israel is this like heretical egregore thing that just allows all these people to have an excuse to not obey any law in America, the UN, the ICJ, Thailand, anywhere. And, you know, lo and behold, our own Pennsylvania has always been a very moderate state. It's the Keystone State and all that. You know, the most articulate guy to speak out against this data center thing has been Shapiro. And I know it might be a bit of a stretch. You're like, I don't understand the data center Israel thing. Well, what are the data centers really for? AI? No, AI can run on your laptop. They're for surveillance. They need this infinite, like we have 10 times the data center capacity of China, and Chinese AI is better, cheaper, and faster. I even bought the hat. So American AI isn't about AI. Mm-mm. It's actually like a kind of warfare. I could use a lot of DMs right now, a lot of referrals of different kinds of people that maybe you thought were like, I don't know, this guy's a little too weird for me in the past. The battlefield is the tech. That's where the action is. You can join us in this. You can join us for almost for free. I mean, you can join for free. You can subscribe for free. And like still 80% of the stuff I provide is free. Going back to Tennessee, and we're going to start building some things that are not free. Some of those things are going to be agents. Agents are going to be where the battle is. And I'll leave you with this. So I presented like this pseudo civil war thing, right? 50 states, one Israel. Who's really going to win the battle are the 20 somethings, just like in 1860. Who's really going to win this battle is the young people are going to adopt agentic AI like this, like Manus, like Facebook introduced one, NVIDIA introduced one, open source AI is going to be everybody's favorite thing to use. And this is how everybody's going to get away from big tech, which are nothing more than really than surveillance systems and toll booths. I mean, even Alex Karp says, I'm going to buy your tokens. My company's going to buy your tokens so you can surveil my company and take my IP. He called it alpha, which is a finance term. It means like what makes my company better than your company, but for lay people, it means IP. Yeah, bring a friend. Little STP. Trying to head back to LA next week. I know you'll miss this wooden door, but so just to finish this off, so Facebook was fined almost $18 billion. I think it was like 29 states or something like that. And I want you to think about this number, like as you click off here. Facebook has off of their balance sheet $800 billion in obligations for AI. Yeah, Retro, I'll be back to you. Karen B wins the free Substack subscription award today with a St. Augustine quote. Heaps of money doesn't close the jaws of greediness, but rather opens them wide. It's like so Augustine. Like, another white man. Flock cameras. Yeah.
Side sleepers are making the same mistake over and over again, and it's quietly putting stress on your shoulder, neck, and spine while you sleep. If you're sleeping in
Oh, so Retro, you're in Europe. Cool. Okay, I'll reach out to you here in a moment.
a soft pillow is actually crushing your shoulder every single night without you even knowing it. When you sleep on your side, there's a huge gap between them.
Oh my God, is that hat hot?
The pillow is too soft.
It's like putting a plastic bag over your
When
head.
that happens, your neck bends and your body weight ends up crushing your shoulder. That aching pain you feel in the morning, it's because your shoulder is basically acting like a kickstand for your whole body because your pillow isn't doing its job.
It's my favorite song on the album. Okay, tomorrow, I think I'll do the $150 trillion thing a little bit deeper. And I'll show you that even though that sounds absurd, Wall Street can put $150 trillion of fucked up paper together like next Thursday. So, talk to you soon.